So good morning again, class. So this would be our thesis format. So you see two columns, the proposal and the final paper. So in the proposal, you will have your title page and table of contents. But this part, the title page and table of contents, madali na lang yan. So we're actually starting to do the chapter 1, which is the problem. And there's a note here that says written in the future tense. So again, written in the future tense. So will be, ganyan. And the chapter would include the following: the introduction. So later on, once your topic has been approved, you will now be doing the introduction. This is a general statement about the problem and what the study is all about. I think I made mention before that in an introduction, meron yung 5-paragraph format. So that will just be one page with 5 paragraphs. The first paragraph would be the context, meaning um, ano yan, that's a superficial information, a general information of your study, and that is with citation. So before the initial um, stage of your creation of your chapter 1, you should be doing your preliminary review of related literature collection. So maghanap na kayo, uh, dapat in total, you should be having around 20 or more journal articles, thesis, or dissertation. That's the standard when you do a thesis. But in the preliminary, I will allow you to have 5 or 10 muna as an initial. And you have to make sure that the journal articles, thesis, and dissertation are all connected to your study or your approved working titles. Now, pag meron na kayo yun, you have to be able to put it in your. Okay, so you have to create your Google Drive, and then para malagay nyo doon, because you'll be needing that in terms of getting the title of the journal article, thesis, dissertation, and putting it into the APA format para doon sa references ninyo. So again, the introduction is the context, pahapyaw or general information, that's with citation. The second one would be yung content. Ito na yung mas malalim na information, okay? A deeper information about your study, and you get it again from your review of related literature with citation. So again, sa context, may citation. Starts with the word however. Now, in the literature that you will be reading, may mga authors doon na very unique yung sinasabi about your study. Now, you have to be able to capture that in the introduction at ilalagay niyo yun as a contrast. Meaning that particular information is very unique and would be a major contributory factor in terms of your study. And then the fourth one is the aim of your study. Sa aim, you will have to put 3 aims in qualitative terms. So the aim of the study is to, so maglalagay kayo doon, number 1, ano ba yan? Understand, describe, describe, and the other qualitative terms na gagamitin nyo doon. Understand, describe, explore, okay? Usually tatlo yun. And then context, content, contrast. Contrast is with citation. So may citation pa rin yung contrast ninyo. And then the fourth paragraph, again, would be your aim. And the last is the approach. Yung approach ninyo will be all about the type of qualitative research design na gagamitin ninyo. So normally, you will start your sentence with, the study will make use of a, kunyari, qualitative case study, or the study will make use of a phenomenological study, or the study will make use of an ethnography study. And then the second sentence would be a citation. So maghahanap kayo ng citation describing the qualitative research design that you have chosen or you have selected. Okay? So that would be the introduction. Now, in the background of the study, Ito naman, you need to be able to look for 3 or 4 citations to be placed in your paper. So ayun, 3 or 4 references with citations. Now, ang sabi dito, you need to provide an overview of issues, problems, new developments that leads to the inception of the topic, and an overall purpose rationale for selecting the study based on your preliminary uh, investigation of your review of related literature. So this would include a very clear delineation of the field of study that leads to a clear statement of the problem. So ang makikita ko dito sa background of the study ninyo would be 3 or 4 again references with of course with citation that would further clarify or explain where you are coming from in terms of your study. Now, the third in chapter 1 would be the statement of the problem. Now, I will teach you later on the statement of the problem. Again, it's a statement. So normally, yung first sentence ng statement of the problem, you would usually say, the problem of the study is. Palaging ganon. Yung first sentence would be the problem of the study is, ano yung problem ng study mo? Okay, you will have to be able to put there immediately kung ano yung hinahanap mo sa research mo. And then the second sentence would normally be a citation. So maghahanap ka ng citation that you are going to tell your reader na tunay ngang may ganong klaseng problema. So again, you will have to look for a citation that would tell your reader that there is indeed a problem. Now, the third sentence in the statement of the problem would be your purpose statement. Ang ilalagay niyo doon sa third sentence is that the purpose of this, kunyari, qualitative case study is to, o tatlo uli yun. Kunyari, iba namang research design na qualitative mo, so ilalagay mo doon, the purpose of this qualitative phenomenological or ethnographic research is to, tatlo uli yun. So, again, yung purpose ng study mo, okay, is different from the aim. Okay? Later on, maka-clarify yun as you write your actual chapter 1. Now, in the fourth sentence of the statement of the problem, ang ilalagay nyo naman na dyan is the problem of the study will be answered by the following research question. Again, sa fourth sentence ng statement of the problem, ang ilalagay nyo na dyan ay the problem of the study will be answered by the following research question. Then immediately after the fourth sentence, ilalagay nyo na dyan yung research questions ninyo, which later on you will have to be able to formulate. In the research questions, what and how lang ang makikita doon sa research questions in a qualitative research. Again, what and how. And so we end with the statement of the problem. So bawat area dito, of course, you will have to be able to do it. Okay? Yung iba, nandun pa lang dun sa approval ng topic. That's okay, no? We go into the process. But some of you, I think, your topics has been approved already. So umpisahan nyo na yung, I told you to do the 10-3-1 activity. You look for 10 journal articles, thesis, and dissertation na titles related to your approved topic. Okay? And then 10, choose your top 3 and your top choice. From your choice, you look your approved topic and you can create your title. Yung iba, what I did was to already indicate the actual working titles. Yung iba topic pa lang. But later on, babalikan natin yon, and hopefully you'll be able to craft later on your unique working titles. Now, going back to chapter 1, hypothesis, walang hypothesis in qualitative research. Because in a hypothesis, you will have to be able to prove something. Wala ka namang ipoprove na theory dito, okay? Because this is qualitative, it's descriptive. So walang hypothesis in a qualitative research. So we should be clear on that. And then the significance of the study. So what is the significance of the study to, kunyari, ano yan by paragraph yan. the significance of the study to the school, let's say to the community, to students, to parents, to St. Patrick's School. So may mga paragraph yun na ilalagay ninyo. And then the scope and the limitation, you will have to clearly state kung hanggang saan lang yung inyong research. Let's say you will only focus in St. Patrick's School of Quezon City, primarily or particularly in the senior high school. And you will be interviewing roughly around 6 to 7 participants. Ganon. So, dapat malinaw yon, yung scope and delimitation. And then the definition of terms. The operational definition of key terms used in the study. So, itong significance, scope, and definition of terms, madali na lang yan. So, hindi muna yan, pero babalikan nyo yan later on. What is important in chapter 1 would be your introduction, the background, and the statement of the problem. And then, yung isa sa pinakamahirap is the chapter 2, which is the review of related literature. This time, this is written in the future tense. Now, yung contents nyo dito will have to be arranged by themes. Meaning, ipagsasama-sama ninyo yung mga authors na para-pareho yung idea na sinasabi and come up with parang a title with it. Ano yung mga sinasabi nila and then put what the authors are saying. Now, there are authors na very unique yung sinasabi na hindi po pwedeng yung ipagsama. So, ihihiwalay ninyo yun and be able to put like a title for it. So, naka-arrange by themes or thematically yung inyong review of related literature. Again, the key way of doing it is the in-text citation in the APA format. So, according to ganyan, according to the CANID, the study made mention that blah, blah, blah. Okay? And then, towards the end, so siguro between mga 15 pages or more yung RRL nyo, on the last page will be the synthesis or the summary. Okay? The synthesis or not only a summary, but 1 or 2 pages of ano ba yung mga sinabi ng authors, mga pare-pareho kakaiba, you'll be able to indicate that in 1 or 2 pages, including the research gaps. Yung research gaps are things that was not seen in your literature or some points that you have not seen that should have been answered by the RRL. And of course, your own critic in a paragraph in your RRL synthesis. And then the third would be the theoretical and conceptual framework. Kung merong theories kayo, so normally, i-indicate ninyo ano yung pinanggagalingan ng study nyo based on the theories. Kunyari, kung 3 theories yan, so mag-indicate kayo doon ng 3 paragraph explaining your theories with citation. And another paragraph, yung huli, would be a paragraph explaining the connection ng 3 theories to your study. And then we move to the conceptual framework. Itong conceptual framework would be an actual framework or an illustration of yung the processes, the procedures, and the so-called parang outcome of your study. Siyempre, yung outcome mo, hindi pa yun yung tunay na outcome mo. In a case study, merong tinatawag na conceptual framework. It is called the IPO or the input, processor, output. Normally yung 3 boxes yun na makikita ninyo na may arrow. So yung input, yung participants ninyo, yung process, kung ano yung gagawin ninyo to be able to collect the data, and the output would be yung ini-expect or inaasahan nyo na magiging, hopefully, product of your actual study. Now, and the other, normally yung IPO is for a case study. But for ethnography, phenomenology, or grounded theory, you can create your own progressive framework or a framework that would actually be more equated or be more connected to the special qualitative research design. So makikita nyo doon, minsan may drawing, kunyari, the lived experience of a dog owner. Ang makikita doon yung dog owner, tapos may mga arrows. Okay? May mga arrows doon as to, kunyari, ano yung effect ng, ano yung changes na nangyari dun sa tao after owning a dog. So may mga arrows siya, tapos may mga ibang figures illustrating the actual process of the research. So makikita natin yan later on, okay? While you're doing your actual uh, creation of your chapters 1, your chapters 2. And then we move to chapter 3, which is the methodology. Yung methodology nyo will be specific to the qualitative research design. So kung case study ka, of course, pang case study yung methodology na gagamitin mo. Kung grounded, ethnography, or phenomenology, dapat specific doon sa qualitative research design. So first is the research design. You will have to explain kung ano yung research design na ginamit mo. Assuming you got a qualitative case study, so i-explain mo yun using your references or with citation. Kunyari, Robert Yin, okay, is very famous about qualitative case study. So i-quote ninyo si Robert Yin at ilalagay yung explanation niya dyan sa research design. Now, in the locale of the study, where are you conducting your study? If it's in Quezon City, we're in Quezon City, which particular institution, then participants, who are your participants? Okay, how many are they? Okay, and ano yung sampling technique dun sa participants nang gagamitin ninyo? Normally, for qualitative research, ang palaging gagamitin natin is a purposive sampling technique. So you're choosing your participants for the very purpose of your study. Or primarily, for example, ang participants mo is specifically students with asthma because your topic or study is about asthmatic senior high school students. So yung purpose mo sa pagpili, it's because these are specifically students with asthma. So participants yan. And doon sa participants, you will have, again, to be able to put your specific sampling technique. Kung purposive sampling technique, ilalagay nyo doon purposive sampling technique, and you will have to be able to explain the technique with citation yun. Okay, then the data gathering, yung instruments, wala naman kayo instruments na gagamitin because in qualitative research, wala naman statistical tools kayo gagamitin. In the data gathering procedure, what I would normally ask my students to do is to come up with a table. Say, dalawang columns yun. The first column would be the research question, and the second column would be the data collection method. Data collection method. Ano yung mga data collection method? Open-ended questionnaire, survey, yun yung mga gagamitin ninyo, okay, in terms of collecting answers from your participants of research questions. So again, yung research questions ninyo later on, you will have to create your survey, not survey, you will have to create your interview questions for each of the research questions. So pag sa chapter 3 na kayo, this will have to be explained further. Then the data analysis. Pag data analysis, normally sa qualitative, we will all be using the thematic. Tandaan nyo yan ha, thematic data analysis. So mag-extract tayo ng data doon sa mga sagot ng mga participants, i-code nyo yun, i-categorize, at saka you will have to create your themes. Yung themes ninyo will have to be able to answer your research questions. And then, yung ethical considerations, madali na lang yan. Okay, that would be 2 or 3 paragraphs lang naman explaining what you did in terms of informed consent at yung mga iba pa. And then we move on to your final paper. Okay, after your midterms, you will start doing, hopefully to chapter 1, 2, and 3, tapos na yan, kasi you will have to present your proposal. And with the final paper, you will have to create, of course, your chapter 4, which is the results. Yung results niyan, yung sagot ng, yung mga makukuha yung sagot sa participants ninyo in the interview, naka-transcribe na yan. iko-coding nyo na yan, ika-categorize nyo yan, tapos you will be creating your themes, i-explain nyo yan dyan sa chapter 4. Okay? So, ang sinabi dito, presentation of the findings, answering the research questions. Okay? Ano yung answer sa research question number 1? Okay? Masasagot nyo yun to the thematic analysis. And then chapter 5 would be your summary of findings, a conclusion, and recommendations. Madali na lang yan chapter 5 because you technically in chapter 5, pagdating yung chapter 5, tapos na yung paper ninyo. And then you will be needing your references. So lahat ng ginamit ninyo na references, starting from the introduction, okay, and to the latter part of your paper, kailangan nakalagay yun sa references in APA format 7th edition, alphabetically arranged with a hanging indent. Makikita nyo yan later on, kaya i-correct ko yan, yung hanging indent na yan. So the references should be, dapat yan mga 5 years and above. So 19, 2019, to mga 2019. Pero may mga ilan-ilan na mga references kayo that you can have siguro below 2019. Okay naman yun, but not too many. And then you'll have your appendices. Ito yung mga tables ninyo, yung mga figures, okay? Ilalagay nyo dyan. And the last part would be your updated curriculum vitae, parang resume ninyo. Now, note here is that the paper is written in APA style, okay? APA style 7th edition. And in the proposal, that would include chapters 1, 2, and 3. And you will have to list all in-text citations in the references. So, doon sa chapter 3 ninyo, I will already ask you to put your references doon sa dulo, okay, ng paper ninyo. And the final paper, of course, this would have to include all the parts from chapters 1 to the curriculum vitae. Lahat na yan, yung mga format, table of contents. So, and again, this will now have to be written in the past tense kasi tapos na. So babalikan niyo lahat yung mga chapters niyo and you will have to make sure na naka-past tense na yun kasi tapos na yung study niyo. And this time you would have to list all in-text citations in your references. Okay? We'll be able to give you a copy of this one. And then, sige, we can go to immediately to our discussion after discussing the format. Let me just open my slide. Any questions so far, class, with the format? Send ko lang sa inyo. Okay, I think I've sent the thesis format for your reference. Okay, yeah. So again, let's continue. Okay. Share slide. Okay. Okay, so qualitative research, I think there was a prior discussion, I think, in one of the videos of describing both qualitative and quantitative research design. By now, class, hopefully, nade-determine yun na ang difference between qualitative and the quantitative research. Again, it's very basic. Qualitative, we talk about its descriptive, you make use of your 5 senses, and quantitative, okay, quanti, okay, we talk about the numbers, we talk about measurements, we talk about statistical tools, or we will be using statistics in finding out answers to our research question. We will talk about the qualitative research designs, grounded theory, case study, phenomenology, and ethnography. Bakit kulang ng Y? Ethnography, okay? So I think this was discussed already, so we move on to the next. Now there are so qualitative data can be measured in coding, can be all qualitative data can be measured and coded using the quantitative methods. Quantitative research can be generated from qualitative inquiries. One can code an open-ended interview with numbers that refer to data-specific references, or such references could become the origin of later on a randomized experiment. Now, quantitative research is viewed as confirmatory and deductive in nature, while a qualitative research is considered to be exploratory and inductive. So yun lang yung pagkakaiba niya. And then, let's move immediately to the 4 important qualitative research design, which most likely you will be using. I think bihira lang ang gagawa ng grounded, but most of you will be doing either a case study, ethnography, or phenomenology. Let's talk about grounded theory. Refers to an inductive process of generating theory from the data. So this is considered ground up or bottom up processing, meaning you get all your information from the ground, meaning talaga doon sa, kunyari, if we would like to find out the origin of Philippine tattooing, malalaman natin yan when we go, for example, to Banawe at interviewin doon yung the one who is still living in terms of how tattooing is being done in the Philippine context. So interview mo yung the old lady na nagtatattooing, yung mga relatives niya, to be able to understand. Okay? So habang pataas ng pataas yun, so from doon sa community na yon, from the barangay, then you go up, okay? And later on, maybe you'll be able to interview those persons na natatuan nung old lady from Banawe. So grounded theories argue that theory generated from observations of the empirical world may be more valid and useful than theories generated from the deductive inquiries. Medyo mahirap lang talaga tong grounded theory kasi kailangan mong bumabad at kailangan mong makuha yung information from really the ground. So grounded theories criticize deductive reasoning since it relies upon a priori assumptions about the world. So itong priori assumptions are parang preliminary assumptions that you have already, which might lead later on to biases in your research. However, they say that the grounded theory incorporates deductive reasoning when using constant comparisons. So in doing this, researchers detect patterns in their observations, then create working hypothesis that directs the progression of the inquiry. So habang ini-interview niyo yun, may nakikita kayo nga parang mga pare-pareho na sinasabi nila that you will later on consider it as like patterns. So the sampling method that is usually being used in the grounded theory, meron silang tinatawag na theoretical sampling. This is the most common sampling method in the grounded theory, where the participants are selected based on the emergent. So as the data is collected and analyzed, the researcher identifies gaps in the theory and selectively samples more participants to refine and expand the theory. Next, they also use a purposive sampling. So initially, researchers may use purposive sampling to select participants who are likely to provide rich, relevant data about the phenomena under study. So most likely, in the other kinds of qualitative researches, ito yung gagamitin natin, purposive. However, as theoretical sampling takes over, the focus shifts to sampling that supports the theory development. Kaya mostly ang ginagamit dito, theoretical sampling. And other methods being used in the grounded theory is the snowball sampling. The current participants recommending other individuals who may contribute valuable insights. And then may maximum variation sampling to develop a rounded theory, researchers may seek or out participants with diverse experiences. So, yan yung sampling technique na gagawin with the grounded theory. Then we also do a convenience sampling technique. While not ideal for theory development, researchers might initially use convenience sampling to quickly gather data. However, this method should transition to theoretical sampling as the study progresses. So pwede naman daw mag-convenience sampling. Well, of course, later on, they would have to shift to the theoretical sampling. So how is data analyzed in the grounded theory? So meron silang tinatawag na open coding. So this is the first stage of coding, involves breaking down data into discrete parts. So you're closely examining them and labeling them with codes that describe the content. This is where initial concept begins to emerge. So again, kinukuha yung mga words sa mga phrases, i-code yan. Okay? Pag na-code yan, i-categorize yan, kung ano yun. Then we begin the actual coding. So during this stage, relationships between codes are explored. So yung mga na-create na codes ninyo, and the researcher begins to group codes into categories. So yung mga codes, i-categorize nyo yan, pagsasamahin nyo. And the focus is on identifying the patterns. Okay? Hold on, class. Ma'am Janet, yes. May klase ko, ma'am. May klase ko. Bakit, ma'am?
Natin ang LGQ.
Ha? Hindi, wag niyo.
Oo, tumawag sa DepEd. It was already announced by now. Sila daw ang mas mataas.
Pwede naman yun, ma'am eh.
Ah?
The other schools are having
Sabi ko nga,
online.
Actually, ma'am, because of we thought of online. Pero mali, ma'am, mali. Kasi already heard na mali ang ng klase. Which is left. And then, ang anak ko, kasi late siya, may klase pa. In-overrule daw natin ang so ako na lang humingi ng sorry, talaga lang. So, sabi ko na lang, this is already a lesson. Yeah. I'll this up to the proposal.
Oh, sige ma'am, I'll talk to you. I'll talk to you sandali. Ito kasi
comment na rin.
sige, sige. Okay, sorry. Ano ba to? Actual coding. The focus is on identifying patterns and connections that explain the phenomena. Okay? And then, still with the grounded theory, meron selective coding. The researcher identifies the core category or the central theme that emerges as the most important aspect of the data. So other categories are refined and integrated around this core category to form the basis of the theory. And then meron rin ginagawa sila, it's called the constant comparative method. Okay, so ayan, kino-compare nila yung mga na-create nila ng mga codes and the categories. Okay. Okay, so this time, paano naman ina-analyze yung data with the grounded theory? So may memo writing. So throughout the research process, the researchers writes memos. Okay, may mga parang nakalagay na small piece of paper, naka-memos na ganun. Okay, on the data. Okay, memos are crucial for tracking the development of the theory, ensuring that the final theory is well grounded. And then we have the theoretical saturation. So data collection continues until theoretical saturation is reached, meaning new data no longer contributes additional insights or refinements to the submerging or emerging theory. At this point, the theory is considered fully developed. Now, minsan kasi, when we talk about saturation class, dito sa grounded theory, pag nakita nila na parang pare-parehas na yung sinasabi, that is the point na sinasabi nila na may saturation. Meaning, wala nang mga bago because pare-parehas na yung sinasabi. So, they will now come up with a saturation point na nagsasabi doon sa researcher na wala na, ang mga susunod niyan, halos pare-parehas na rin yung sasabihin. So these are some of the examples of a grounded theory research titles. Developing a theory of research resilience in response to educational reforms, exploring the process of career transition among midlife professionals, a grounded theory approach, understanding the dynamics of work-life balance among remote workers, and a grounded theory of student motivation in online learning environments, and developing a theory of patient empowerment in chronic disease management. Ito pang STEM yun, no? Then we also have exploring the coping mechanism of first-time mothers, a grounded theory of leadership development, understanding the process of digital transformation in small businesses. Ayan, most likely pang business yan. And exploring the evolution of social support networks in immigrant communities, a grounded theory. So those are some of the examples. Now, we move with a case study, another qualitative research method that involves an in-depth contextual analysis of a single case or a small number of cases within a real-life context. So some of you might be doing a case study, and the aim is to gain a comprehensive understanding of the complex issues through detailed examination of a particular instant, event, individual, or organization. Again, understanding of a complex issue. Okay. Normally, again, in examining an instant event or individual or an organization. So case studies are used to explore and understand a phenomena that are not easily examined using the other methods. So there are certain characteristics of a case study which would include focuses on understanding the case within its real-life context. And detailed examination involves detailed, comprehensive data collection, multiple sources of data, utilizes various data sources, including the interviews, observations, documents, and artifacts, and exploratory, often used to explore new areas where existing theories are inadequate or where little prior research has been conducted. So this time naman, what would be the sampling techniques? Meaning, paano kukunin yung mga participants when you talk about sampling techniques? Again, normally, purposive, that's number one. Ito yung pinaka-common technique used in a case study research, wherein researchers select specific cases that are most relevant to research question and that can provide the most insight into the phenomena under study. So meron diyang may criterion sampling, selects cases that meet specific criteria relevant to the research question. Meron unique case sampling, may typical case sampling. So what are the other sampling techniques in choosing your participants for a case study? Meron ding snowball sampling, used when initial participants refer researchers to other relevant cases, and we have the convenience sampling. But again, we will be using the purposive sampling technique. Okay, o meron ring theoretical sampling. And in terms of data analysis, so of course you have to collect the data. It can be multiple sources. It can be a single case source, basing it in one organization. So here in the multiple sources of data collection, you get your sources from the interviews, observation, documents, and other sources to gain a comprehensive understanding of the case. Then you can use the triangulation, meaning ito cross-check and validate your findings. Meaning, meron kang interview, meron kang document, okay, interview document, at saka yung artifacts or things that might be related to your study. And then the data organization, you have to manage your data, organize them systematically through coding and categorization. And there would be case description, create detailed description of the case, including background information and context. And then we have the data analysis. So we will be doing coding, okay, develops codes to categorize and organize data. And then pattern matching. We identify patterns or themes within the data that address the research questions or the hypothesis, especially for quantitative by hypothesis. And the cross-case analysis, when multiple cases are studied, meaning several organizations or several persons compare and contrast finding across cases to identify commonalities and differences. So kung mayroon kayong seven organizations, i-cross case nyo yun, okay, to see the commonalities and differences. But normally, I would just ask my students to do a single case study. Pagka multiple case study kasi mahihirapan. So data analysis, explanation building, ayan, and then the narrative construction. So, and then your report findings. Ito na yun, doon na yun sa latter part ng sa chapter 5 na with the case study. And next, we have the phenomenology. Is a school of thought that emphasizes and focus on people's subjective experiences and interpretations of the world. Phenomenological theories argue that objectivity is virtually impossible to ascertain. So to compensate, one must view all research from the perspective of the researcher. So phenomenologists attempt to understand those whom they observe from the subject's perspective. So this outlook is especially pertinent in social work and research where empathy and perspective become the keys to success. So pag phenomena of an event, talagang you will be able to understand. Kunyari, the lived experiences of a, kunyari lang the lived experiences of a, the lived experiences of managers in a coffee business. Okay? So, iintindihin nyo yung buhay ng isang manager in an actual coffee business or a coffee shop. So, the sampling methods, of course, ayan, purposive pa rin. Okay? This is the most common. And there's snowballing. There's also criterion sampling. The maximum variation sampling and the homogeneous sampling. But again, we will use a purposive sampling. So the others here, you can just read them. Those are descriptions, but the common usually being used method with phenomenology, again, purposive. Then in the data analysis, process in phenomenology involves several steps, which include bracketing. The research sets aside their own preconception and biases to approach the data with an open mind. So dapat yung gagawin mong research, dapat hindi ka biased doon. Reading and rereading. The researcher immerses themselves in the data by reading and rereading the transcripts, the field notes, or other materials to get a deep understanding of the participants' experiences. And then in the data analysis, okay, again, we will be using dito the thematic analysis. So there are key phrases or sentences that capture essential aspects of the phenomena, are identified and extracted from the data, and formulating meanings. So the researcher interprets the significant statements to derive meanings that reflect the essence of the participants' experiences. And later on, you will have to cluster the themes. So similar meanings are grouped together from the themes aspects of the phenomena. Themes na yon will have to be able to answer the research in your phenomenological study. So there is textual description in your data analysis, structural description, synthesis of meanings and essence. These are some of the examples of a phenomenological study, the lived experience of burnout among frontline healthcare workers during the COVID-19 pandemic, exploring the phenomena of teacher-student relationships in virtual learning environments, a phenomenological study of parental grief following the loss of a child to sudden infant death syndromes, and the experience of identity transformation among first-generation college students, and then living with chronic pain, a phenomenological study of patients' experiences with fibromyalgia, and the essence of loneliness among elderly individuals living in long-term care facilities, and the lived experience of refugee integration in the new cultural with ethnography, so I think this is the last, no? Emphasizes the observation of details of everyday life as they naturally unfold in the real world. This is sometimes called the naturalistic research, a method of describing a culture or society. This is primarily used in anthropological research, but again, ginagamit na rin with the others. Now, is a qualitative research rooted in anthropology designed to study the culture, communities, and groups through immersed observation and participation. May terms na ginagamit dito, the mimic and the perspective. So the mimic and the emic perspective. This would refer to the perspective of the one that you will be interviewing and your very own perspective. So the goal is to understand and live experiences, behaviors, rituals, and social interactions of a group from insider's perspective, and often spend extended periods within the community they are studying, collecting data through observation, interviews, and participation in daily activities. Okay, those are some of the definitions. Okay, sampling methods in ethnography employs non-probability sampling methods due to its focus on deep conceptual understanding rather than generalizability. Meaning, again, ang gagamitin rin dito, like the others, would be the purposive. Ayan, dito yung purposive sampling. So, pwede rin snowballing, convenience sampling, theoretical sampling. Again, we will be using the purposive sampling. So, in the data analysis and procedures, you have to organize the data, transcribe the interviews, organize the field notes, and categorize observations to create a manageable data set. Okay, so coding. So then we have the thematic analysis and the narrative construction of the answers to the research questions. So reflexivity, researchers continuously reflect on their own biases and the influence of their presence on the research setting, ensuring a more authentic representation of the studied culture. So these are some of the examples. Okay, the cultural significance of ritual community in Zambales, most likely the Aitas, navigating identity and ethnographic study of the LGBTQ plus youth in urban schools. I think one of your classmates will be doing something to do with yung mga a case study of salons, parang ganon. I think one of your classes will be doing that, no? On salon businesses here in the Philippines, wherein the actual operators belong to the LGBTQ plus. Workplace dynamics in a BDO tech startups and ethnographic exploration. And then we have the role of traditional medicine in modern healthcare, a case study in Laguna. Street vendors in informal economy, an ethnographic study in selected barangay of Quezon City. And the impact of globalization on indigenous language preservation and ethnography of the Maori. It's a foreign study. And the rituals of resistance and ethnographic study of activism in Hong Kong. So ano pa ba? Gender roles and power structures in a patriarchal society and ethnography of a barangay Quezon City, digital nomads, and so forth. So methods yan, I think that's it with the ethnography research. But going back mainly to the qualitative research, methods that we will be using would be observation from your participant, unstructured, intense interviewing. Ayun nga, you can do case studying, participant observation, direct observation, unstructured or intensive interview. Pag unstructured, magbibigay lang ng questions and you let your participants answer it. And there are also important points in a qualitative research, the objectivity, reliability, and validity. Okay, since procedure is to emphasize in qualitative research, replication, other tests of reliability become more difficult. However, measures may be taken to make research more reliable within the particular study, such as observer training, objective list, and many more. And validity, yung validity lang naman is that you will have to be able to go back to your participants and let them see na ito yung actual transcription for them to be able to validate. Now, in terms of reliability naman, sasabihin nyo that you're doing triangulation, that your sources of data would be coming from your participants, from your review of related literature, and from the artifacts that you will be collecting. Okay, I think that's it, no? I think it's already 10 o'clock. Okay. Can you all switch on your cameras for our attendance? Okay. Kasi tayo'y tapos na. Okay, I'll just take a photo, a quick photo. Okay. 1, 2, 3. One more. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so thank you very much for attending the class. Yung mga hindi pa approve yung title, when we go back, I am going to give the paper. So just wait for it. While we're waiting, please review the things that we have discussed today. Dun sa mga approved na, please do your paper na. Okay? Thank you very much. Bye, everyone.
Thank you,